Hey everyone! In this video I will talk about 4 important questions you need to answer before making your game in Unity or deciding in the very start of development. And the first question is, will your game have single scene or many of them? Both approaches have advantages and disadvantages. Let me show you. With a single scene, all your game objects and resources are stored in one place, so you can access everything easily. But if your game has a save load functionality and player can have several save games, you will need to carefully manage resources every time when save is loaded. This disadvantage becomes an advantage in the second approach, where you use multiple scenes, because when you switch between scenes, all resources are released automatically. For a solo developer or a small team, it can save a lot of time and effort. However, each scene has own configuration and you should deal with it. And also, you need to write some code to control the logic for switching between them. In my game, for example, I use 3 scenes. I have main menu, loading screen, and the game itself. A game always starts from the main menu, which releases all game resources without any issues. Next question. Will your game support only one language or many of them? Unity has a built-in localization system with localization tables. This simple tool allows you to add new languages and update translations at any point in development. You also can export values to plain text files and import them back after translation complete. But the localization system should be integrated to your game objects and code, and it is much easier to do it from the very beginning. Adding it later can be tricky and you risk to miss some elements. For game objects, you will need to use localization string events, but for code, you will need to load string tables and work with localized string functions. Again, this is possible later, but it's much harder than doing it from the beginning. Next question. Will your game have a pause function? I mean, when everything in game stops. In my game, when I press escape button, absolutely everything stops. Shaders, animation, game mechanics, and even sound. And the easiest way to achieve this is to freeze system time. But it will work only in case if you multiply by time all your logic in game. I mean shaders, code logic, and others. It will be really difficult or even impossible to integrate such functionality later. Last question. Which rendering pipeline you should use? There is a built-in rendering pipeline, a universal rendering pipeline, high-definition rendering pipeline, and if you will search online, you will find advice like built-in is lightweight and it's more for mobile devices. High-definition rendering pipeline is for AAA games with the high-end graphics, but default choice is universal rendering pipeline, and it's generally true. But there is one powerful feature in high-definition rendering pipeline: Unity water system. For example, in my first version of my game, I used universal rendering pipeline, and the ocean you see is completely custom-made. Unity doesn't provide a native water object in universal rendering pipeline, so I had to build it myself. A shader with reflections, refractions, depth-based color, waves, plus underwater effects. Since my game have a lot of floating objects, I need wave data in the code, but shaders runs on the GPU, but code runs on the CPU, and there is no direct communication between them. So I need to calculate waves data again on the CPU side, and it should match the visuals. I would say it's a lot of work. Now let's look how a high-definition rendering pipeline covers it. I have empty project, there is nothing except sun and main camera, it's default. And let's go to create menu, there is water, surface, ocean. That's it. You see, we have an ocean, we have underwater effects. No, don't have. Need to enable it. Here we are. We have underwater effect, we have waves, ripples, reflections, refractions, a lot of control here. Wind speed, wave size, and so on. I spent less than a minute to create an ocean, which looks much better than my version. But HDRP water system is relatively new, and there are powerful paid assets for universal pipeline available on the Unity Asset Store. So, if your game have a lot of water surfaces and player should interact with those, at least you should check Unity water system. It might cover everything you need. That's it. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to press like button and subscribe to my channel. Bye!